to start big picture. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen with this draft class throughout the last few months?
Yeah, I'll give you two different windows that we're examining right now, Erin. If you asked me back in August how high Jayden Daniels would be drafted, I would not have said potentially number 2 overall. But after being the best player in college football last season with 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, over 1,000 rushing yards as well, he has skyrocketed up boards. He's number 2 overall on my big board, regardless of position. So his ascent over the past, let's call it 6 to 8 months, has been nothing short of remarkable. In a shorter lens, though, J.J. McCarthy, since the end of Michigan's 15-0 national championship winning season, has seen his stock boosted as well. And perhaps it's those of us in the media that are catching up to how the league feels about J.J. McCarthy, but it certainly feels like he is a great bet to be the 4th quarterback taken in this upcoming draft class at worst. And by the way, I think 11, where Minnesota currently picks, is the floor for J.J. McCarthy. It could be much higher, as I forecasted in that mock draft.
All right, let's play a game of dominoes. With the draft, if you're able to answer one question, sometimes that opens the door for several opportunities when it comes to bets.
Yes.
You like Jayden Daniels, number 2. Yeah. You admit that Washington's keeping it close to the vest, so we're not exactly sure. But if that happens, what's the likelihood May does not go 3rd?
I continue to think the Patriots will sit there at pick number 3 and take whichever of Jayden Daniels or Drake May falls into their lap. And yes, J.J. McCarthy does have his supporters around the NFL, but I do feel like at some point we've kind of underappreciated Drake May for the player that he is. He just turned 21 years old, as you can see right there. His ability to throw on the run, and I get it, it's a pro day. He did it also in live game action frequently for the Tar Heels, 6'4", 230 pounds, and some will say, hey, the Patriots aren't ready for a young quarterback. My counter to that would be that a quarterback is the straw that stirs the drink. 2 years ago, we all thought the Houston Texans were rudderless and had no hope whatsoever. Oh, that's right. Shout out, Anita. The Texans had no hope. They drafted C.J. Stroud last year after trading away Deshaun Watson. And all of a sudden, I mean, how many teams, especially after today's trade, would you rather be right now than the Houston Texans? Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs, but there aren't a whole lot of other teams that you would say, give me their future over Houston's.
And since we're talking about quarterbacks, right now on ESPN Bet, they have a prop for 4.5 quarterbacks to be drafted in the first round. It was minus 190, juiced to the over. Now it's at minus 260. What do you see happening with the QBs in the round 1?
They call that the Joe Fortenbaugh fact. Joe Fortenbaugh screams about it, line moves.
Yeah, all day on radio he was must have been talking about it.
His influence, it's not just like, but it's in person too. You can feel it. The aura is real.
Like, feel it.
Yeah,
not literally, that's an HR thing, but figuratively.
I will only do this show in person because I want to experience that aura. I'm going over. I think 5 at minimum make it into the first round. I think it's a race between Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix for that 5th quarterback taken. I currently have Bo projected to go 12th overall to the Denver Broncos, who do not own a 2nd-round pick. So if they don't take a quarterback at number 12, Jarrett Stidham, Ben DiNucci, the only options on their roster right now. And Russell Wilson aside, you don't frequently find a quarterback around pick 75, in the NFL draft. So I think the Broncos certainly in the market, the Raiders at 13 certainly in the market, and then as we know, the possibility of a trade up into the first round always exists. So I think 5 is the minimum. Might even push to 6 because I'm having a hard time breaking the tie between Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix.
Interesting. All right, so it feels like the 2 storylines that have been, let's not say etched in stone, but close since the beginning of this process. Caleb Williams, number 1, and that Marvin Harrison Jr. would be the top wide receiver off the board. Malik Neighbors at LSU. A lot of people like the guy. He's right around plus 250 to be the first receiver off the board. Any chance he goes before Harrison?
Yeah, that number intrigues me. I'm not going to lie to you. And this comes down to a style.
You're coming along nicely, Field.
Yeah, I mean, he's the 4th overall player on my board is Malik Neighbors. 3rd is Marvin Harrison Jr. So I certainly hold both of these players in very high regard. Marvin Harrison Jr. getting this big, powerful, explosive, excellent body control wide receiver. And Malik Neighbors are getting a smaller player, but the more explosive player. If you're looking for the guy that can do wonders with the football in his hands after the catch, that is Malik Neighbors. He forced 27 missed tackles and probably broke about 6 ankles last year during his incredible breakout season for LSU. Every team has a different wide receiver archetype they are sort of angling for, and if a team that says, we need that run after catch ability, ends up being the first team to take a wide receiver, it could well be Malik Neighbors.
All right, last question for you before you have to run to more shows. I'm sure SportsCenter is on the docket for tonight. If Dallas Turner is not the first defensive player drafted, who do you think could sneak into that conversation?
Yeah, we've all been sort of saying to ourselves, like, yeah, it's just going to be Dallas Turner going to the Falcons number 8 overall because they signed Kirk Cousins and Darnell Mooney. I'm not saying that I have a great feel for this one, but Leatu Latu from UCLA, you see on the board right there, one of my favorite prospects in this draft, a guy who I have going much later than you would think because of the fact that just a couple of years ago, he was forced into medical retirement because of a neck injury. But prior to that, he was at University of Washington before he resurfaced at UCLA. The head coach at that time at Washington, Jimmy Lake. Now, the fact that he's the Falcons defensive coordinator, I should say, the fact that those two have a history might make this more likely to happen or less likely to happen. Also wouldn't surprise me given Atlanta's need for a second cornerback if either of Quinyon Mitchell or Terron Arnold also hear their name called very early. But make no mistake about it, if you like offense, you have signed up for the right NFL draft. We could have 20 to 24 players in the first round, all the offensive players.